right, hopefully everything is working. Hello, everybody. My name is Sean, or this is my channel, the Christopher Hitchslap channel. And today I have with me John Shook, Dr. John Shook, Doctor of Philosophy and author of The God Debates, and lots of other things that I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit. So let me just welcome John. John, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm great tonight, Sean.
Excellent, excellent. We posted a video on my channel. It was probably at the 1st of August talking about subjective versus objective morality.
Right?
Since then, I guess it's, as of today, it's been viewed probably 2,000 or close to 2,000 times, and it's got a lot of comments on it, which I guess you've had time to kind of peruse through them and pick out which ones you like or don't like, or some that are relevant or not relevant. Um, and this has always been kind of a fascinating subject for me, which is the subjective versus objective morality. Um, and the video that you made was fairly controversial, but would you go ahead and explain or just kind of backtrack a little bit about what was stated in the video so that everybody's pretty clear on it, what we'll be talking about?
Sure. So I'm a philosopher and I'm an atheist and I'm a humanist and a naturalist, a lot of ists. So I keep my ears open. I hear things. I've heard a lot of talk about how morality is supposed to be subjective according to non-believers. I don't think objective morality is ruled out by atheism or naturalism. In fact, I'm part of a philosophical school of thought that's been around for quite a while that can find morality to be objective, but I'm just not hearing much about it. And I thought I would step into the discussion and make my position as clear as I can and start with some basics. So I laid out my position in too brief video, but it's better to be brief. I'm a philosopher. We're trained to go on and on and on, but it's more fun to answer questions. And I did find some of the comments not only making dead-on observations, but also asking great questions.
Bit of a technical delay here, but I'm checking the stream to make sure that we're going out and everything is still working. Let me just okay. There we go. We are still going out, just making sure. But let's go. I don't have the comments pulled up in front of me, but if you could read one that kind of
Yeah,
caught your eye, that'd be great.
well, one of the first substantial comments starts out with a claim, and I'll just read it. It says, historically, morality has been subjective. Well, I disagree, and I'll explain why, but let me finish the comment. It goes on to say, while there are a few moral laws that seem objective, even those still don't always apply in all circumstances. Bit of a misconception there. It is not a criteria for objectivity that you always get the same answer across all circumstances. In fact, objectivity would suggest that it would be a surprise if it did, so we can get into that a little bit. Goes on to say it's immoral to kill another person, but it's not immoral to kill a person who's trying to kill you. Well, you change the circumstances. So in every case where somebody is trying to kill you, it could be morally permissible to defend yourself. So you do have to stick to the same circumstances. And then the next question is it immoral to kill animals? Well, there the implication being, if we don't have all the answers to all of these big questions, then none of morality is objective. But of course, that doesn't follow. It is certainly the case, it's my view, that only some of what is called morality really fulfills the criteria of objectivity, what I usually call basic morality. And there's lots of moral questions that don't have very good answers yet. That doesn't mean they never will. It doesn't mean that objectivity is forever ruled out. It just means we don't know quite yet. It still gets called a question of morality, but the objectivity of what we do know is not called into question by concerns and questions about things that we don't know yet. So that's easily handled. Is it immoral to have sex with a married person if you are single? If so, why? Well, here we get into questions of culture, a third nuance. This is a great comment. There's a lot going on in just 3 lines. That third question gets into another aspect of morality, which is largely cultural. And it's not part of what I mean by basic morality. Let me try an analogy on you, Sean. See if this makes sense to you. You can go around the world and you can find people eating all kinds of different things, can't you? We might call this cuisine. So you can go to Singapore and enjoy Singapore cuisine, and you can go to India and Nicaragua and Canada and so forth. Now, somebody who enjoys all these different cuisines might say, aha, there's nothing objective about what human beings eat. You know, it's all relative because they do it in so many different ways. Well, yes and no. The cuisines are different from country to country, but if you did a nutritional analysis of all the food that people eat in all these various countries, you shouldn't be surprised to find out that you're going to find lots of carbohydrates, you're going to find some protein, you're going to find some starches and sugars, you're going to find some fats and other goodies. In other words, it turns out that if you're eating in Brazil or you're eating in Bangladesh, a human being gets the same basic nutrition. It's just not cooked all the same way. But if you make a big deal out of the cuisine, you might think, oh, there's nothing in common. My claim is that morality is more like good nutrition for people. How it's packaged and what's left in and what's left out and how much of each thing, that can vary enormously from culture to culture. So different cultures have different specific rules about who exactly you're supposed to be, in this case, having sex with. But the basic underlying moral issues are the same virtues apply. You should not be helping to destroy other people's important relationships. How does that work itself out from country to country? Well, you have to learn what's going on in those different countries. But the basic obligation not to harm people irresponsibly is part of what I call basic morality. And you find rules enforcing that in every society around the world. So these are some initial answers, Sean, to that really packed comment I saw right up front.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting comment. There's so much actually embedded inside of it that there's so many different avenues you can go with it. There was, I guess we'll pause for a second and kind of address the bigger issue, which is the secular morality. We've talked offline about this a little bit, but and of course a little bit of it is disclosed in the video too about objective versus subjective morality. What thoughts come to your mind when you think or when you hear somebody say that somebody who is an atheist can't hold or claim all of their morality is subjective? I mean, what's the first thing that comes to your mind or your first response when someone says something like that?
When someone says that an atheist has to think that morality is subjective? Did I hear you right?
Yes, there is no ultimate lawgiver, therefore all morality is subjective.
Right.
What's
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is, of course, friends of religion like to think that they're in charge of everything that's objective. What is ultimately real? Oh, well, God and whatever God made, right? What should the laws be? Oh, whatever's in the whatever's in the Bible, and whatever Jesus commanded, so on and so forth. They not surprisingly think that God takes care of morality, and that's what makes it objective. We can talk about that argument. It's pretty easy to take down, as I described in the first video. But the first thing that comes to my mind is, friends of religion think they're in charge of everything objective. So if you reject religion, you have to reject everything that's subjective. And of course, that doesn't follow at all. The reality is, of course, is that morality is older than religion. This isn't the lone opinion of one atheist. This is confirmed by history. Learn it. Anthropology. Love it. These things have been confirmed beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's not hard to see that non-believers can be just as moral, objectively so, as religious believers, because no religion has a monopoly on morality.
Do you think it actually may tip in the other direction, such as the person who is non-religious may be able to be more moral than someone who's religious?
Your sound, I didn't
Did it?
hear hardly any of that.
Okay. How about now? Can you hear me now? Hear me. Okay, hold on a second. Let me try to mute it all. No. All right, let's try to fix this.
No, no,
Let's try.
you're barely coming through, very distorted. Oh, you just came back, but you're very distorted.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
now I got you. You're much better now. Oh, my position is, of course, that basic morality is something we all learn in childhood if we had anything like a decent raising. So I don't go looking for big differences between religious and non-religious people. When it comes to understanding that you shouldn't harm other people, you should look out and take care of other people, you should be civil, and you should respect the rights of other people. Usually the differences between religious and non-religious people have more to do with those cultural disagreements than anything about basic morality. As far as I can tell, religious and non-religious people want their children to pretty much turn out the same sort of way in terms of what they consider to be, the right virtues. So, for example, if you've got religious parents teaching their children to hate certain kinds of people just because God hates them, that's a distortion of basic morality. I don't think morality is about teaching people to hate. But they're in the minority. But, just because there's a minority that...
Let's go with this. All right, how about now?
You sound good.
Okay. All right, so let's see here. I'm gonna take a pause for a second and try to fix what's going on. I'm just gonna put down this display screen, and then the sound will be off for just 1 second, and I'm gonna try to fix this. Sorry, we're back live again, and hopefully we've got all the technical issues worked out. Maybe. We're having a little bit of a bandwidth drain for a second. John, can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Perfect. You're lined up, voice in sync, everything. All right. So let's, despite all the technical issues and letting it play in the background also, let's jump into the next comment and tell me which one you picked out. That kind of caught your
Sure.
eye.
The next big comment goes like this. I'm not sure I can agree that morality is objective. If it was, then there should, or at least could be, an encyclopedia that simply advises what the moral thing to do would be regardless of circumstance. Well, two mistakes there. First of all, plenty of morality is objective, even if you don't have all answers to all possible problems. I've refuted that. Second of all, this regardless of circumstance stuff, that, right, is also a fallacy. It's my claim that morality is objective, which means that the right thing to do depends on the actual situation you're confronted with right in front of you. It's about your moral obligation to the other person that's with you or to other people that need your help. So my position is it entirely depends on context, because that's what morality was about. If morality was not about the context or situation or whatever's going on around you, then it would have to be about what's going on inside of you. But that's precisely what it would make it subjective. I'm not a subjectivist, so this regardless of circumstance stuff has got to go away. Morality does have to be very sensitive to circumstance. The questioner goes on with more about this encyclopedia business. That I always thought was what religious people thought morality was like, that there's one answer to everything and there's somebody who knows it. I guess that would be God. God's mind would be the encyclopedia, right? I don't think there's a God, so I don't think there's a moral encyclopedia, but my claim is we don't need the entire moral encyclopedia. I've forgotten most of it. Mathematicians don't even know answers to all the questions, but that doesn't mean that the essence, the core of mathematics is somehow subjective, that we just make up mathematical truths or the mathematical answers, what we happen to want.
Now?
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, sorry about that. There was just a ghost that joined the call. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was finished with that particular question with I had my mathematics analogy. Maybe that worked for some folks.
I sure hope so. I hope so. Figure out this morality thing. There was an analogy that you gave the other day that kind of resonated with me. I was wondering if you could kind of give it again, which is about if you were to take a child and in a culture 3,000 years. Can you give that one again, just to kind of?
Sure. Let's see if I can phrase it the same way. Remember, my claim is that basic morality is objective. Well, what do I mean by basic? So this has to do with anthropology and studying human cultures. And human societies have been studied forward and backwards. They've just about found every Amazonian tribe. Maybe there's still more out there. But even among indigenous peoples, even peoples that recorded their ideas way in the past. We find the same things over and over again. Parents have the same wishes, hopes, dreams, and expectations of their children, and they raise them up to be adults using, not surprisingly, as anthropologists confirm, a very similar, almost identical basic morality. What do I mean by this? Well, this was where my thought experiment comes in. So if you took any 6-year-old at random and you could, this is science fiction, I suppose, but you could transport them and plunk them down in the middle of any other society. And in fact, let's suppose your machine that's going to do this has also got a time machine in it. So you could set the dial forward or backwards 20,000 years. If you plunk that 6-year-old child down in some other random human society, the moral expectations, the basic virtues, the basic rules of kindergarten, they're the same. There's virtually nothing that that 6-year-old would have to suddenly learn morally about the expectations of children. Now, the child would be very confused about a lot of other things. The language would have to be learned and so forth. But that child would know already how to play nice with other kids, how to be obedient to parental figures, how to be respectful of authority, how to get along with others. Don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat, don't hit. It doesn't change. And that stuff doesn't change when you're an adult. Now, the rules get more complicated. We all eventually grow up and we have to add morality that has only to do with one culture or another. That was my cuisine analogy. So there are going to be differences. But when you're 6, there's not much difference.
That's excellent. I really like that one. Let's do one more comment, and then I've got a few questions for you. And then we'll kind of wrap it up, and then might do I know we'll do a follow-up to this follow-up that's going to be better shape. But do you have another comment in front of you that you can?
Well, I'll try one. Again, going after this subjectivism stuff. Somebody had the comment, I'll omit the lead-off rudeness and go to the next sentence. Something that is objective exists whether or not a mind can perceive it. I agree with that. That's a little philosophical, but works for me. Something that is subjective is something that exists only in the mind. Okay, we'll accept that. The next sentence is, morality exists only in a mind. In order to decide whether or not something is moral or immoral necessarily involves a thought process. Name one immoral or moral act that doesn't involve a thought process. Okay, I agree that moral judgments do involve thought processes. They're judgments, but that doesn't make them subjective in the sense that we mean it. If I judge that I'm holding an apple rather than a tomato, yeah, there's cognitive processing going on, but there really is an objective answer whether I'm holding an apple or a tomato. I just can't wish that I was holding an apple when I'm really holding a tomato. When I take a bite, I'll be in for a surprise. So that reveals that the mind has to answer to what is going on outside of it. And this is my claim with respect to morality. Whether or not something is right or wrong, let's say we're viewing a situation in which one person is cruelly harming another person for no good reason. What makes the act wrong is what's going on between those two people outside of my mind. It doesn't have anything to do. Whether I was there or not, the act would be wrong. In fact, it doesn't even depend on whether or not the people involved believe it to be right or wrong. For example, I can be harmed and not even know it, but it's still wrong that I'm being harmed. Let's suppose somebody is busily stealing money out of my bank account and I don't even know it, so the thought doesn't even cross my mind. It's objectively true that it's wrong that money's being stolen from me. It doesn't even matter if the person doing the harming thinks that they are doing something right or wrong, because again, the rightness or wrongness is in the situation. It's in the action. It is in the facts, so to speak, of what's going on. And it doesn't depend on whether or not the perpetrator happens to think it's right or wrong. We all believe this. We all believe this because we never are impressed when the perpetrator of a crime says, "Oh, I didn't think it was wrong." Yeah, well, that means you're part of the problem. That doesn't suddenly mean morality is suspended just because you don't like to be moral. Quite the opposite. We all pass moral judgments precisely because morality is objective. In other words, it's my theory about the objectivity of morality that explains why we all make moral judgments that we do.
Excellent. All right. What we're probably going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut this off because it's going my bandwidth. I'm looking at the control screen right now, and it's just not receiving enough data, and I don't want this to get lost in what you're saying, to get lost in bad bandwidth issues. So I apologize to everybody that's watching right now about complications that we had. The bandwidth is going to have to be worked out more. I'll have to go back and look at the stream to see what. So for right now, I'm just going to put it on hold. We will readdress this very, very shortly.
More to come, folks.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I apologize, but right now, that's it. See you later.